Hello, in this video I'd like to show you my latest addition to my collection. These are a pair of books which I've really wanted for many years. Belzoni in the history of Egyptology is a really interesting character. He's not the most politically correct character. I think all Egyptologists almost despise him, and probably many Egyptians do. But he did make a vast impact on the history of early Egyptology. I suppose you'd say he was more of a adventurer come treasure seeker than a Egyptologist, but he did see himself as something of an Egyptologist, in so much that he discovered many things, obviously, and he made many drawings, and he wrote down his notes of his journals, which basically is what these are. When Belzoni, as you probably know, when Belzoni went to Egypt as an engineer and that didn't work out, he was approached by Henry Salt, the British consul in Egypt, to acquire the head of the young Memnon, or the colossal head from the Ramesseum. And he done that and collected many antiquities. But then when he came back to England, he had no credit for that. That was all under Salt. And one of the ways in which this is cutting a very long story short, but basically when he came back to England, he produced these books about his discoveries, and his work in Egypt was really interesting. He discovered so many different things. He opened the second pyramid, the three famous pyramids in Giza, Khufu, Khafre and Menkaure. Was it the second or the third? Try and think now. No, I've got a feeling I said that wrong. I think it was the Pyramid of Menkaure. Um, they believed it was completely solid, and Belzoni found his way into it. So actually, I can just quickly, I'll just reference that. No, beg your pardon, it was the second. It was the second, and he wrote his name inside, just referencing this from Nicholas Reeves's Ancient Egypt: The Great Discoveries. This is a really good, I should show that there, a really good modern book. Say modern, obviously it's modern compared to what I sort of collect as such, but for reference it's fantastic. I actually got this signed by Nicholas Reeves, who's kind enough to sign it. Yes, and so when Belzoni opened the pyramid in 1818, and I believe he wrote that down in there. Apart from that, he'd done many other discoveries. He found the tomb for Seti I and brought back the sarcophagus to England. There's a photograph on it that's still in London. That's in the Sir John Soanes Museum, who was an architect. Actually, there's another. This is a postcard from there. That's a modern postcard of an antique print. You see, the sarcophagus was alabaster, and he brought back an obelisk as well, which was is also in England, but that's in Dorset, I believe, at the Manor House, Kingston Lacey. But so he made lots of discoveries and produced his narrative and this is a pair of them. Now these aren't the first editions. These are the third editions. Now I believe the first editions were printed in 1820. Now these are only produced in 1822, but as you can see, they're the third edition in 2 volumes. The narrative of the operations and recent discoveries within the pyramids, temples, tombs, and excavations in Egypt and Nubia. They are probably one of the most famous sets of books in particularly early Egyptology, and yeah, I'm really excited to have these. They have been rebound, as you can see. Really, they're so bright. I do prefer books if they haven't been rebound personally, but I think they've been rebound to a very high standard and are very sympathetic to the way they would have been done at the time. So I'm really happy with them. I actually got these very unromantically on eBay, but that I got them from the United States. I'm obviously, hence the accent, British. But yeah, these are on eBay US, and yeah, I thought I'd make interesting little look at. I've also got, when Belzoni came to England, he'd found the tomb of Seti I, and he actually produced an exhibition of that in London, and it was at the Egyptian Hall, Piccadilly. I've got a genuine antique print of that. I think it was built around 1812 in the Egyptian style, which was ironic because it wasn't built like that for the Egyptian exhibition. It's just how the building was. So I think it was built in 1812, and I think the exhibition was around 1820. Sadly, it was knocked down, so it doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, that's a very interesting old print. So obviously, Belzoni was famous or infamous, according to whichever your viewpoint would be. But I think that's looking at it with modern eyes. I think it was a different time, and I think there is a certain romance to it. In the days of Egyptology, when it had been less hard hats and high vis jackets and more carrying one of these. So for me, it's a very interesting episode in Egyptology to research, and I think really one of the most interesting and dramatic periods of archaeology in the history of archaeology, whether it was Egypt or anywhere. And I hope that's been of interest to someone. Thanks very much.